Hello there. Having read through SFA's most recent plan for the fall, it appears that while we can expect some classes to occur in person, that a large proportion of classes are expected to take place using some form of distance learning instead, and that of the classes that will begin in person, some are expected to transition to distance learning following Thanksgiving break. Now, I have not seen SFA define what they mean when they say distance learning, but my understanding is that there are two types of distance learning formats. The first is what I consider to be the traditional distance learning format, where you log into something like Blackboard or D2L to access your modules that contain readings and videos, and you respond to those materials using a discussion post. Now, a benefit of this type of distance learning is that it doesn't require very much technology. If you have a device that can browse the internet, you can successfully complete your coursework. However, there are also negatives in that you don't have the same sense of community as you would in an in-person class. Then, based on the discussion posts I saw last semester as we transitioned to this form of online coursework, that students claimed to have issues with motivation and that lack of community was making the course more difficult than it had been in the first half of the semester. I also believe that there are issues with clarifying difficult topics. So if you're struggling with something, I think it can be more difficult to gain a proper understanding if your only way to communicate with your professor is to send them an email or create a discussion post and wait for them to respond. That there's something to being able to speak face to face, to ask a question and get an immediate response that facilitates understanding difficult concepts. And I believe that that's missing in this type of format, even if the responses from the professor come very quickly within a number of minutes or hours. Now, the second type of distance learning format relies heavily on video teleconferencing software like Skype, Zoom, or Teams, although you could use more niche software like Discord. In this type of distance learning, the professor has a class time and sends out a meeting at that class time that students join, and then they can listen into that lecture. I think one of the great benefits of this type of distance learning is that you still have that sense of community. Before and after class, you're in that same call. You can talk to people about things other than class or about class. And I also think this type of distance learning has the benefit that you can ask those questions in a way that's very similar to an in-person class. So if you are struggling on something, you can stop, ask right away, get a response from the professor, and if their answer doesn't quite get the gears turning in your head, you can ask a follow-up in a way that is difficult to in that first type of distance learning. However, there are some negatives to this side of distance learning as well. In this type, there's a higher amount of technology that's needed to make it work. Instead of just a device that can browse the internet, you need something that's a little bit more robust, especially with your internet. The same cell phone or computer is probably fine, but you need to have a little bit better internet to sustain a video call. And if you're dropped out of the call, it can be difficult to get through the lecture to understand what's being taught. So there are downsides there. However, I do believe that this type of distance learning is superior for learning if you have the technology. Now, for most of us, we could do this just with the technology we have. If I were to use my laptop for this, I could operate just off of the built-in microphone and webcam. And I do believe a microphone is essential for this type of learning because I've seen areas where professors are not great about seeing when a text message comes in, a chat message comes in with a question, because if they're full screened, the chat may not pop up or it may be on a different monitor, and so it's difficult to see. But if you have a microphone, you can always get your question through. A camera, I don't think is essential, but I think it's helpful if you have one, because it helps create that sense of community. You can see the people in class. You can relate to how they're feeling. You can see their emotions as they're listening to the lecture. And I think that's beneficial. So you can just use what's built in. However, I would encourage you to use something besides your built-in laptop or laptop microphone. I'd say it's fairly inexpensive. You can upgrade to a pair of earbuds or headphones. Perhaps you already have a pair laying around with a microphone, maybe $10, $20 to do something like this. Or if you're looking for something more robust, you can use a USB microphone. As I recall, this was $30, maybe $40. And since we're operating a system like Zoom that compresses your audio before the other people hear it, the difference between this and the microphone I'm using to record this will be minimal. So if you're looking for that clear audio where it's easy to understand you and people don't mind hearing you talk, something like this or this would be a great alternative to your built-in microphone. I'd say that regardless of how you're doing this, if you plan on speaking, you do need headphones on, because if you're playing something over your speakers and you have a microphone on, you're going to create a loop that feeds back your sound, what's coming out of your speakers, back into your microphone so that people hear not only what you're saying, but what their speakers are saying. And that's going to create some confusion and noise that makes for a distracting time. For a camera, if you don't have a built-in webcam, there are apps you can use to turn your cell phone into a webcam, and I've had great success with those. I'll link to the one for Android down below, at least the one that I've used, just because I know it works and it's free. However, I am not familiar with anything on iOS, so if you happen to know one for that, you can let me know and I'll add it to the description or pin your comment so that people can see that. So while this second type of distance learning may require a bit more effort and a bit more technology, I do think the benefits are worth it. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Until next time, cheers. This is the laptop's built-in microphone. All right, this is the audio with the earbuds in. All right, this is with the Samsung USB microphone. This is cell phone audio as if I were talking on speakerphone. This is cell phone audio as if it were my webcam. This is with the built-in laptop webcam. This is the cell phone camera